Hey, it's such a cold day to be amongst such warm people, so I want to thank everybody for coming out. I also like that you're embracing the penguin strategy. I encourage you to do more so and just huddle together as much as possible. I also found that this helps quite a bit. So as we stand here today, of course, as Ariel said, over 130 actually now, wow. Potentially even 140 actions are taking place right across the country. Taking place from Victoria to Yellowknife, from Halifax to Nunavut. So if you think you guys are cold, just imagine those folks up there. But they are standing with you to demand action on the climate. They're standing with you to say no to superstorms and extreme floods and other extreme weather events. They stand with you to say no to the tar sands, and they stand with you to say yes to a green, just energy future. The impacts of the tar sands, as we know, are numerous. The destruction that they're causing to land, to water, the impacts they're having on communities, on First Nations rights, mount to every single day. In front of us are 116 barrels. These barrels represent the amount of carbon that Shell's Jack Pine mine expansion will produce every single second. Just take a second to think about that. These 116 barrels, every second, they double what you see here today. And just keep going and keep going and keep going. And that's not even from the entire mine site. That's from the expansion. So from the actual mine, it's going to be a lot more. And of course, that's only one mine out of many mines in the tar sands. And so the actual impact is going to be many, many more than these barrels here today. The tar sands as a whole are already the largest energy source of greenhouse gas emissions in the country. And they're set to do nothing but grow. Today, the tar sands emit more than 7 million cars. Just imagine 7 million cars capture all of the emissions that they emit, and that's how much the tar sands are already producing. Shame. By 2020, those emissions are expected to triple.
Fuck that.
Fuck that, exactly. Please make that the headline for tomorrow's Edmonton Journal. Fuck that. The International Energy Agency estimates that if the demand leads to all the tar sands projects already approved by the Alberta government, so these are projects that have already gone through the hearing process and are already approved but are not constructed yet. If all those projects are built, the world is headed to 6 degrees of warming. Now most climate scientists will tell you that 2 degrees of warming is where things get really dicey. We're already seeing the effects of 2 degrees of warming. We're seeing more extreme weather events. 6 degrees of warming would be catastrophic. In fact, the International Energy Agency, which is a very conservative-minded agency, said that 74% of untapped oil reserves, which includes the tar sands, need to stay in the ground in order for the world to have a good chance of survival. This is what we're talking about today, survival. We can't have an economy that exists outside of the ecological limits of the planet. To have an economy that does so is nothing short of suicide. Right now, our Premier and our Prime Minister have us on a suicide path. By continuing to approve new tar sands projects, that's where we're headed. But today, all of us are going to make a different kind of pact. We're going to make a survival pact. We're going to join with those 130 other communities in Canada today, all the millions of people around the world that are fighting for survival. Because we know that the earth has limits. We know that nature has given us all we need to exist within those limits if only we would listen. We know that Germany already employs over 300,000 people in its renewable energy sector. We know that there are countries around the world racing to be the first carbon neutral country on the planet. We know that electric cars are on the road today. We know that high-speed rail already connects communities. We know that the solutions are here and the solutions are real. Alberta has amazing solar and wind potential. We just need the political will to do it.
Right on.
Last summer, the climate crisis was felt in Alberta. We saw extreme historic floods ravage the southern part of our province. Last week, Typhoon Haiyan hit the Philippines with historic 250-kilometer winds. The damage from this storm is still being calculated, but the death toll is already over 2,000. The UN estimates that over 11 million people were affected and that over 673,000 were displaced. I want to take just a second to read a statement from Yev Sano, who is the head of the Philippines delegation at the UN climate talks taking place right now in Poland. He had this to say: "To anyone who denies the reality that is climate change, I dare them to go to the islands of the Pacific, the islands of the Caribbean and the islands of the Indian Ocean and see the impacts of rising sea levels. I dare them to go to the mountainous region of the Himalayas and the Andes to see communities confronting glacial floods, to the Arctic where communities grapple with the fast dwindling polar ice caps, to the large deltas of the Mekong, the Ganges, the Amazon, and the Nile, where lives and livelihoods are drowned, to the hills of Central America that confront similar monstrous hurricanes, to the vast savannas of Africa where climate change has become a matter of life and death as food and water become scarce. Not to forget massive hurricanes in the Gulf of Mexico and the eastern seaboard of North America. And if that is not enough, I encourage them to come to the Philippines right now. We cannot sit and stay helpless staring at the international climate stalemate. It is now time to take action. What my country is going through as a result of this extreme climate event is madness. The climate crisis is madness. But the good thing is, we can stop it.
Get rid of Harper!
We can stop this madness. We have solutions, and over 130 communities today are joining with you to push for that change. A better Alberta is possible. A much better Canada is possible. We need to play